won't listen. Can't.
When it comes to a fond remembrance of our childhood, one usually tends to hold cartoons in the highest regard. Of course, each of us had our own favorite cartoons, and truth be told, the 90s had some of the best ones on display. Well, this brings us to the animated superhero TV series X-Men, which spanned across 5 seasons, generating a total of 76 thrilling episodes. Also known as X-Men the Animated Series, the show introduced us to a miscellaneous range of formidable adversaries, each of whom contributed to the show's dynamic storytelling. However, in today's video, we are not going to talk about villains such as Magneto, Mystique, or Apocalypse for that matter. Instead, we're going to take a look at the rich tapestry of underrated villains, each of whom has challenged the X-Men at every turn. Are you ready to take a trip down memory lane? Let's find out who these 18 underrated villains are. But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin.
Sure, and you should have.
Black Tom Cassidy. First things first, anyone who hangs around with Juggernaut should never be treated lightly. Naturally, the same goes for Black Tom Cassidy, and while it's true that he wasn't exactly the central antagonist in the series, he did pose himself as a credible threat right from his first appearance in the episode titled The Cry of the Banshee. Cassidy's ability to create concussive blasts via his signature wooden fighting stick, or shillelagh to be more precise, distinctly set him apart from the other mutant villains. In X-Men the Animated Series, Cassidy and Juggernaut were employed by the Shi'ar enforcer Eric the Red to abduct the runaway empress of the Shi'ar Empire, Lilandra Niramani. Given that Cassidy had familial ties with Banshee, it did add an intriguing layer of personal conflict as well as drama to their encounters. Also, portraying Banshee's younger brother did make Cassidy's appearance more impactful in the series, but truth be told, Cassidy on his own wasn't that big of a threat. Maybe that's why he was always seen joining forces with other powerful villains, particularly Juggernaut, to carry out his own agenda.
The leaders would.
Omega Red. No X-Men villain is more 90s than Omega Red, so please don't make the mistake of judging this beefy Russian mutant because of his clunky design. Born as Arkady Rossovich, Omega Red was made into a living weapon by Soviet Union generals as a counterpart to Captain America. But what made this Soviet super soldier even more deadly was his pair of indestructible, retractable carbonadium tentacles. Needless to say, these ultra-durable tendrils were Omega Red's primary weaponry, and he was often seen resorting to them to ensnare and strangle his opponents in order to drain the life force out of them and restore his own damages in the process. Despite his limited screen time, it's fair to admit that Omega Red made quite an impression in all of his appearances, especially in the episode titled Red Dawn. His relentless nature, that heavy accent, and dare we disregard his shady past with Wolverine, indisputably made him one of the most depraved and heinous villains in the entire series.
I shall be leader again. No!
The Reavers. Say hello to this antagonistic crew of cybernetically enhanced mercenaries who worked under the guidance of Lady Deathstrike. Each of these high-functioning cyborgs had a distinct appearance, and given the extensive mechanical enhancements in their bodies, they surely looked quite intimidating. It goes without saying that the Reavers were capable of withstanding significant levels of damage while simultaneously posing themselves as quite a tangible threat. However, in spite of their compelling characteristics and visually striking designs, X-Men TAS didn't give them much attention. Their roles were quite brief, to be honest, and they only appeared in the two-parter titled Out of the Past. If you ask us, the story of Lady Deathstrike's henchmen could have been expanded more. They certainly appeared to be underutilized.
Broadcast photo!
Spiral. Brutal experiments left former stuntwoman Rita Wayward with 4 additional arms and a fractured mental state. So trust us when we say that under no circumstances should you even want to cross paths with this multi-armed martial arts master here. In X-Men the Animated Series, Spiral is seen serving as Mojo's loyal enforcer and carrying out his twisted mind games. Boasting impeccable strength, agility, and fighting abilities, Spiral, who is also a highly skilled sorceress, can give tough competition to any of the X-Men members. The character's distinctive appearance, especially her 6 arms and silver hair, along with her mastery of weaponry, makes her a visually striking yet overlooked villain from the series. For someone who can pack a mean punch like Spiral, she definitely deserved more development and screen time. Silver Samurai. The merciless Silver Samurai is often overlooked because of the solitary fact that he only made a single episode appearance all throughout the series. But hey, don't make the mistake of taking this Japanese mutant lightly. We're looking at someone who is more like a local despot with a notorious gang at his disposal. Mind you, the katana-wielding samurai with an extraordinary level of speed and agility also has a teleportation device on his chest that makes him both a slippery and challenging opponent. Naturally, the ability to instantly disappear and then reappear gave Silver Samurai quite an edge, making it highly difficult on the part of his opponents to strike him down. This advantage also added a whole new layer of tactical complexity to Silver Samurai's fight with Wolverine, as seen in the episode titled Lotus and the Steel. As fans, we would have really liked to see his motivations and backstory get further explored in the series. Toad. If there's one villain who was delightfully faithful to his comic portrayal, it has to be Mortimer Townby, more popularly known as Toad. The character made his first appearance in the episode Secrets Not Long Buried as a member of the mutant-only group Children of the Shadow. Having appeared in only 2 episodes, Toad made it very obvious that he will always stand his ground towards mutant supremacy. That being said, his abilities weren't exactly impressive, especially when compared to heavy hitters such as Magneto or Mr. Sinister, and he served mostly as comic relief in the series. However, there is no denying that he was fiercely loyal to his crew and would put himself in danger if and when needed. In the series, he made great use of his enhanced leaping skills, and dare we disregard his ability to produce a sticky substance that would render anyone completely immobile? Sadly, Toad's relatively minor villain arc in the series left him as a somewhat inconsequential villain. Archon. The handsome-looking Archon traveled across dimensions of space to seek Storm's help to save his dying planet, and after she quelled the life-threatening Storm, the ruler of Polemarchus asked the Mistress of the Elements to marry him. Wow, the story surely looked like a fairy tale, apart from the fact that we left out a tiny yet crucial part about Archon. The leader of Polemarchus was simply posing as a desperate king. In reality, he was nothing but a ruthless tyrant, one who relied particularly on slave labor to maintain his empire. Having made his appearance in a 2-parter titled Stormfront, Archon did justice on his part as a deceptive warlord. Mind you, his villainy isn't made immediately apparent, but it unravels in layers. Let's not forget that he manipulated Storm's compassionate nature to have her help his troubled world, and that's not all. Archon even ended up proposing marriage as part of his manipulative charm, and Storm falls for it.
Is it alive, or is it Phoenix?
Cameron Hodge. In contrast to more obvious mutant-hating extremists, such as Bolivar Trask, Cameron Hodge represented the seemingly respectable side of anti-mutant sentiments. Additionally, the fact that Hodge started out as a character in the show who seemed quite benign, to be honest, only to reveal his true hateful nature, highlights his menacing side. There's no denying that he was directly accountable for the brutal enslavement and forced labor of mutants on Genosha. Later, in the 2-parter titled The Phalanx Covenant, Hodge was seen teaming up with the race of techno-organic aliens known as the Phalanx, and undergoing an extreme transformation into a cyborg. He held the X-Men responsible for losing one of his arms and legs, and felt indebted to the Phalanx for giving him cybernetic limbs. The fact that he promised the Phalanx that he would help them assimilate Earth and its inhabitants, and was more than ready to use Wolverine's adamantium bones as a conductor, made him quite a formidable adversary. Proteius. What can possibly go wrong when a reality-warping telepathic teenager, one who has always been locked inside a facility and has no trace of the outside world, manages to escape? Well, he tends to leave behind a distorted trail of destruction in his wake. Kevin McTaggart, also known as the mutant villain Proteius, is capable of literally reshaping the laws of physics around him, while also possessing the power to transform his human form into an energy being. Please know that we are looking at one of the few villains from X-Men TAS who has managed to leave even Wolverine psychologically scarred. So trust us when we say that he's conclusively not to be taken lightly. Additionally, with Proteius making up his mind to find his estranged father and things not working out the way he believed they would, he becomes an even more terrifying threat. After a point, even the X-Men find it difficult to fight him because the attacks of Proteius defy conventional understanding. And how long can you really fight what isn't bound by reality at the end of the day? Amphibious. Amphibious was hands down one of the more obscure and underrated villains from the series. Originally a native of the prehistoric Savage Land, Amphibious was transformed into one of the Savage Land mutates by Magneto. With Magneto abandoning Amphibious along with other mutates, the arrival of Mr. Sinister in the Savage Land had the humanoid frog-like being along with the other mutates serving him instead. It is true Amphibious did not exactly fall into the category of a deeply developed character, and truth be told, he served more as a novelty. Naturally, Amphibious was short of his individual backstory, but then again, he was part of a formidable group of mutates, each with unique abilities, and that itself made him quite a threat. Barbarous. Barbarous's powers may not be reality-bending, but they do make him an effective brute force opponent, given his 4 arms, enhanced strength and durability, especially in his home territory, which of course happens to be the uncharted tropical valley hidden in Antarctica, otherwise known as the Savage Land. Originally a native of the Savage Land, just like Amphibious, Barbarous was also transformed by Magneto into one of his mutates. Now, those of you who have seen the series will agree with us when we say that Barbarous serves as a direct physical challenge, one who often requires more than one X-Man to subdue him. Also, it's very quickly established in the 2-part episode titled Reunion that he is highly capable of subduing even the Master of Magnetism, further indicating that he is a powerful, no-nonsense, tangible threat. Nasty Boys. While they're not exactly the most formidable aliens of the X-Men, the chaos that they tend to bring along with them makes them mostly memorable foes. So we're basically looking at a group of villainous mutants who work under the leadership of Mr. Sinister. The crew consists of members Ruckus, Gorgeous George, Hairbag, Slab, and Vertigo, despite the latter's female status. Needless to say, the group is quite a mixed bag. Ruckus can absorb the sound waves around him and send them back with concussive force simply by screaming. Gorgeous George has an elastic, tar-like body that gives him an edge over most of the X-Men. Hairbag not only has poisonous breath, but he can also fire poisoned quill-like hair from his body. Slab can manipulate his size, and as for Vertigo, her powers received a certain Magneto boost in the episode titled Reunion Part 2. Graden Creed Jr. The son of Sabretooth and Mystique was born with no mutations, but he quickly proved that he did not require mutant powers like his parents to be considered as a threat. Graden is the embodiment of pure, unadulterated anti-mutant hatred, and it reflects when he eventually becomes the founder of the anti-mutant group Friends of Humanity. Graden's objectives, which are visibly driven by systemic bigotry and a strong desire to exterminate an entire race of mutants, serve as a severe reminder of the destructive power of intolerance and the internal tensions that can result from one's heritage. I guess it would not be entirely wrong to address Graden Creed Jr. as the most resentful X-Men opponent out there after all. Avalanche. Dominikos Petrikis, also known as the mutant villain Avalanche, happens to be a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. His character in the series is usually seen accompanying Pyro and Blob and serving rather well as a reliable henchman. Additionally, Avalanche's ability to create powerful seismic waves and cause the ground beneath to crumble has irrefutably made him deliver some of the most memorable and action-packed battles against the X-Men. Unlike the powers of some villains that are more abstract in nature, Avalanche's impact is immediate and visibly devastating. His recurring presence in the series has, without a doubt, contributed vastly to his team's ability against the X-Men, and there's just no denying that. Sauron. Karl Lykos was originally a native of the Savage Land who was transformed into a terrifying-looking humanoid pteranodon after Mr. Sinister experimented on him. That's not all. Sauron was given the ability to absorb mutant energy and also possessed the power of hypnosis. Believe us when we say that Sauron could even bring Professor X under his control as he effortlessly brainwashed him into calling the X-Men and leading them straight into Sinister's trap, as seen in the episode Reunion Part 1. Sauron's recurring and, may we also add, terrifying presence in X-Men TAS cemented his role as a significant threat, particularly in the wild world of the Savage Land. After aiding Sinister in his efforts to destroy the X-Men, Sauron was also seen attempting to conquer the Savage Land for himself, only to be defeated and returned to his human form. Super Adaptoid. What makes Super Adaptoid truly stand out in our list is the robot's ability to perfectly mimic the powers of any superpowered being it encounters. Having made its first appearance in the episode titled Till Death Do Us Part, Part 2, Super Adaptoid is notably remembered for its fight against the X-Men, and all the more so for ending up seriously injuring Polaris. Morlocks. The Morlocks are a group of mutants who have deliberately exiled themselves to the underground sewers due to their mutations being too severe to hide on their part. Their leader happens to be Callisto, one who is fiercely protective of her community. Renowned members of the Morlocks include Leech, Mask, Sunder, Tarbaby, and Caliban, among others. There is a high chance that you may want to categorize them as an ostracized opposing force rather than listing them as traditional villains, because the Morlocks represent the extreme end of mutant persecution and genetic mutation in the series. What makes them underrated is the fact that they are so much more than just opponents. If you ask us, they are the tragic reflection of the mutant struggle itself. Marvelous verdict. Well, that's all for today, and with this, we finally come to the end of our video here. So which of these underrated villains from X-Men the Animated Series do you like the most? Don't hesitate to hit us with your thoughts in the comments section, and do let us know if your favorite villain made it to our list. Also, stay tuned with us. We promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye, and have a nice one.